Good evening and welcome to Newsline Prime. I'm Sonali Wanigabaduge. My guest this evening is Attorney at Law Marini De Livera. She was the former chairperson of the NCPA, the National Child Protection Authority. She's currently chairperson of Sisters at Law, which is a hybrid organization that provides a redress to women and children in need, women and children who have been abused. Good evening and welcome to you.
Good evening, Sonali. Lovely to be here.
It's fantastic to have you back again with us in our studio.
You.
You have something with you. Could you explain the circumstances surrounding it?
Yes, this is something I treasure very much because this little child was 9 years old when she was brought to court by her carer in the orphanage, and the carer let her give this to my junior lawyer. Since I was not in court that day.
It's a memento of appreciation.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
Yes. She had made these paper roses, and there's a little tortoise, and there's this. Later, I found out that there was this little note camouflaged inside this. And it says, Madam, I cannot stay in this orphanage. Please take me out of this orphanage. I can't suffer anymore.
Right. Let me just read this out to our viewers. Madam, mata mehe inna bෑ ඉක්මනට මාව ගන්න. ඔයා ට ගොඩක් පිං 20 වෙනිදාට උසාවි එනවද? ඔයාට බුදු සරණයි. So this was a child who was being abused at an orphanage.
Yes.
By the caregivers.
That's right. She was kicked every morning and woken up, and then she had to wash pots and pans which were bigger than her. She had to wash the floor with coconut refuse, and she had to wash the clothes of the older children as well.
Right.
Just 9 years old.
Right. So this was hidden, the note was hidden inside this memento of appreciation.
Yes, the carer asked, what is it? And she said, I made some flowers for madam.
Right, right. Let's talk about this culture of abuse that goes on in families, in orphanages, where children who are supposed to be protected are not. The main perpetrators of abuse, statistically, are the immediate family, and then this happens at orphanages as well. Talk to us about the severity of the problem in Sri Lanka.
It is going from bad to worse because the mechanisms are not working anymore. They are cold, lifeless, and dead, and nobody is doing anything to resurrect them. There's plenty of funding for these government organizations, but they just can't be bothered making the system work. So where do we start?
We have the requisite laws and systems
Policies
in place, right?
Yes.
Okay, where are we going wrong?
The implementation of these laws. Laws are there in the law books. The constitution is there. There are policies. There are government personnel. There are buildings. There are trips abroad to learn about other countries, their experiences. They come back and do nothing.
Right. In addition to that, we are also we've also ratified certain international conventions.
Most of the international human rights treaties have been ratified, and everyone gets very excited when we have to submit the periodic reports to Geneva, and then the enthusiasm dies down. We make lofty promises there, and nothing is implemented later.
Right. If we were to speak specifically on issues, Ms. De Livera, if there's a young woman or child watching this program right now who is a victim of abuse, what would his or her main contact point be? What should he or she do?
Our culture is against us. First, we are taught not to talk about it.
Right.
But it is the exact opposite of what we should do. We should always tell a trusted person, and then in every divisional secretariat, every district secretariat, there's a woman development officer, there's a child protection officer. There are so many government graduates who are trained and supposed to help these people and who are supposed to guide and direct them.
Right.
But the mechanism is not working for some strange reason.
Let's talk about the education system. At nursery level, at primary level, or at school level, are children taught a comprehensive sexuality education?
No, it's not taught. Even at higher grades, it's not taught.
Right.
Now, in other countries, you get human rights education taught through drama and role play.
Right.
They have 3 or 4 teddy bears, 3 are in one color, and then the 3 are in yellow. There is the 4th one in blue, and everybody ill-treats the 4th one. You corner the blue teddy bear, you don't take that blue teddy bear out to play, you don't share your cupcakes with that teddy bear. Then a yellow bear becomes a blue bear, and then you get the same treatment. Then after that, after everyone has had a chance of being a yellow bear and a blue bear, they ask the children, whom do you like to be? Everyone says, I like to be an yellow bear. So that's how they treat tolerance, respect, right to dignity in other countries. So it can be taught from preschool, Montessori level. But only thing, an effort is not made, and no one is interested in human rights teaching.
Right. Now, if for example, there is an individual who is being beaten up by her husband, what should she initially do?
She should tell the perpetrator that he can't do that and give him a chance. And then if he does not reform, seek outside help, maybe a neighbor.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the process when it comes to the police intervention. If there's a complaint made to the police station, then the police officers tend to tell both parties to settle. මේක සාමදාන විසඳ ගන්න. රණ්ඩු කරන්න නැතුව ආපහු ගෙදර යන්න. That's the message they give.
Yes.
So they send the abused woman back to the husband.
So if it's an extreme situation and if it's extremely dangerous for the woman to remain in the home, then the police shouldn't be doing that. So that's also a result of lack of education and training.
Right. So do we in Sri Lanka have sensitivity training, gender sensitivity training?
We have.
How to deal with women, how to deal with victims of abuse, psychological abuse, rape?
On all 365 days, these academies, the police academies have training. But the trainees don't imbue these and don't become human rights sensitive as these trainings. So we have to look at these training modules and the methodology of these trainings, because they don't become human rights friendly people as a result of the training.
Under whose purview does this subject come under?
A lot of ministries are doing this. The Women and Children's Ministry, Justice Ministry, so many ministries, Law Enforcement Ministry. So trainings are happening, trainings and trainings, local trainings, foreign trainings, regional trainings. You find them taking fat per diems and going there and coming back with bottles of whiskey and chocolates, and that's it. That's the result. They don't come back and share with their peers what they learned there, or share the learning material. There is no follow-up.
Right. Okay. Again, moving on to a very specific question. In Sri Lanka, there is a lacuna in the system where we don't... now, for example, if I am being abused and I go to the police station and file a police complaint and say I can't go back to my abusive husband, where will I go? There are no safe houses or shelters for abused women.
There should be women's refuges or shelters or safe houses in every neighborhood. Sadly,
isn't this common sense?
Yes. This should have been done by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, but it has not happened. And people like us, when we start a crisis shelter, the judges are reluctant to send the survivors of violence to us because we haven't got endorsement by the government. But nowhere is it mentioned what sort of government approval we should get. Now, in this day and age of information technology, the computer websites should tell us how we should get these places registered, because we have our own place down south, and it's running. I have asked several people in the government how to get it registered, but everyone is clueless about this.
Right. Now, in Canada, I was doing some research. In Canada, there's a law that protects doctors from litigation if they suspect and report abuse in patients. Now, in Sri Lanka too, something like this can be adopted.
Yes.
I mean, it's
easily
it's
it can
progressive.
be,
it's very simplistic.
Yes.
You know, it's not rocket science.
Yes. There are so many best practices like that we
Right.
can adopt. But we go there and we look at those and we go for conferences and come back and don't do anything because there is no will, there's no commitment in us.
Right. Speaking about abused children grow up to be abusers or
Yes.
very frustrated individuals, liabilities to society. Is there sufficient psychosocial care mechanisms in Sri Lanka which people can just go to counselors, for example, and speak to them?
I have been in existence as an independent organization for the last year, and I'm very disappointed that I haven't found any effective counselors who could draw from the child, maybe through a picture stimuli or a picture that the child, or through music, or get around the child to tell his or her story.
In basic psychology, we learn about how drama therapy, art therapy can help these children who have been abused, who have been told by their perpetrators not to speak about the abuses they've gone through.
Yes. Art therapy, drama therapy, they are very powerful concepts.
Yeah.
But people who have learned them are very theoretical. They don't put it into practice and they don't train others. So I haven't come across people who use them effectively, or there's no connectivity between people like us who give advice and who do court appearances with these counselors. So there is no network building, or there is no pool of counselors that we can go to. So
but surely,
everything is fragmented.
Surely we need to be a bit less pessimistic about the newer breed of lawyers, for example, and doctors who are coming into the foray. For example, in the legal fraternity, so many young lawyers who are passionate about justice and human rights, who are willing to help.
You asked me not to be pessimistic, but I'm afraid human rights is not taught as a subject at law college, and even in universities it's an optional subject, unlike in India where it's compulsory at final year level to study human rights, and they have to do work at grassroots level and volunteer in organizations. But here it's an optional subject, and I'm sorry to say that the young people, they hang onto the coattails of a eminent president's council, and they carry the books till they get a backache for the rest of their lives,
Mrs. De Livera, let's also talk about the concept of orphanages in Sri Lanka.
It's very sad that even in India, they have started an alternative care policy, and they have initiated. And in countries like Australia, UK, and America, they have moved on from orphanages to alternative care. That is either foster care or kingship care. So in Sri Lanka, we are still clinging on to orphanages, and the most horrendous things happen behind closed doors. There's physical abuse, psychological abuse, and cultural abuse, where children are forced to follow another religion. Some children are even retained after they are 18, and they are used for forced labor. So we have so many young children who have opened up to us after we have rescued them and told us horrible stories of what goes behind closed doors.
Okay. I'd also like to draw your attention to the court system in Sri Lanka. If a child who is 8 years old is molested or subjected to rape, the court system takes years and years to hear the case. Continuously, we see the manner in which the child has to keep going to court, see the perpetrator,
Yes.
and be continuously victimized.
Yes.
So what is the way out of it?
We have to strengthen the National Child Protection Authority and the video evidence system there. There are so many complaints that investigations don't start. They are not taking down complaints. They are not monitoring court cases. It's a very powerful act, but none of these things are happening. So again, it's a dead institution. So we have to resurrect institutions such as this, or you have to empower outside civil society organizations to function as a shadow NCPA and do the work that it's supposed to do under Section 14. All those functions a civil society organization has to do, and the government has to fund it, that organization. One of the two.
We are going in for a presidential election.
Yes.
And oftentimes we see the manner in which presidential hopefuls promise the masses a country that is replete with development, a country that can be taken to the world. But the thing is, Sri Lanka has generations of children who have been abused, who haven't been able to talk about the abuses that they've undergone. And it continues to this day. What is your message to presidential hopefuls, since it's a timely topic now? Should they not have manifestos which are geared towards ensuring the protection of women and children, not just for the sake of it, but meaningful action?
Manifestos are legal documents. You follow the doctrine of the mandate. It's a legal promise made to the people. And they have these fancy terms such as good governance, rule of law, democratic ideals, but all are empty words if you don't put into practice what is there in the basic laws and in the constitutions. First of all, we have to educate the people so that they can demand their rights and demand democracy from their rulers. But these lofty promises are made and nothing ever happens, and the people also remain ignorant. And except for a stray protest or two, they don't demand. Like in other in our neighboring countries, you see the people demanding their rights. Here the people are so wrapped up in their poverty and their day-to-day work that they don't bother about these problems that are plaguing society.
Keeping the general public ignorant works best for politicians.
That's right.
In schools, how important is it for teachers to teach children about their rights? And how should teachers themselves be trained? Because teachers come out of training schools or university. But when it comes to talking about reproductive health or sexuality education, they are very hesitant to do that.
The teachers themselves are not trained properly, so they cannot impart that knowledge to the children. So the teachers have to have substantial training and should be armed with different kinds of methodology to teach this to the children, so that they become law-abiding citizens who respect the dignity of others.
I'd also like to talk a bit about the abusers, the perpetrators, because we oftentimes tend to get lost in conversations about victims of abuse. Let's also talk about what draws abusers towards abuse.
They are very unhappy people who haven't had a way of letting out steam. So they may have had a horrible, unpleasant childhood. And in Sri Lanka, we don't have a system where men could speak about their problems. This gender issue insists that men have to be strong, that
Macho.
they cannot, yes, macho, that they cannot cry, they cannot show themselves as a failure, that they have to succeed, they have to be the provider, you cannot be a house husband where a wife works and
Honestly,
that kind.
who comes up with this nonsense? We're
Society.
in 2019.
Society.
And honestly, everyone is now trying to unlearn some of the negative
Yes.
negative behaviors, negative sort of advice that they've grown up with.
Yeah.
And we're in that era where there's so much of information and knowledge before us, so many experts at hand where we can consult.
Yeah.
So in this era, some people still refuse to let go of that rigidity.
Yes. I see this as not identifying the defects and find the cures. We haven't looked at the problems intelligently, and so to find the solutions you have to understand the problems. So we haven't analyzed the problems as yet. We do it in an ad hoc manner. So there's a rape, there's drug addiction, hang them, rape 20 years, the court case will take. So everything is done ad hoc.
So whose responsibility is it to look at this issue holistically?
First of all, there has to be data and statistics.
There aren't any?
No. We started a database at National Child Protection Authority, and that has died a natural death. The University of Colombo set up a database.
Right.
And I trained some of the people who were handling the 1929 child helpline, 24-hour helpline. They were transferred, and some other people who knew nothing of the subject were planted there. And I was told that they watch Hindi movies now instead of answering the child helpline. So that is a sad state of... There's no monitoring at all.
It can't be this bad.
It is worse than this. Last week someone said that they went where the child was sexually abused, 14-year-old girl was sexually abused by the father, and the National Child Protection Authority, head of the police department, refused to take down the complaint. Refused and said, we don't entertain complaints like that. We don't do investigations. So go away. So this is our main child protection mechanism. This is how bad it is.
So where's the accountability then?
Zero.
Isn't the minister in charge of, isn't the minister who is in charge of women and children, the minister in charge of justice concerned or even bothered?
They don't seem to be.
Do you hold meetings with them? Have you raised these issues with them?
When I was working there, yes.
And how did that go?
It's just meetings. You go at 9 a.m. and you come at 3 after having lots of short eats and plenty of tea and coffee, and that's it. And it's the same agenda. I was a member of the National Committee on Women. It's the same agenda for about 3 years. There's no progress. You only talk about it at length, and different people have different views on each agenda item. So they remain agenda items.
Right.
We have lovely meetings, discussions at 5-star hotels, at various air-conditioned boardrooms, but the people suffer at grassroots level.
Ms. De Livera, in your opinion, if we are to formulate a set of proposals or a set of simplistic suggestions which can actually make a positive difference in the lives of those who are being abused, what would they be? There might be stakeholders watching us right now.
First, you have to take down. National Child Protection Authority has to look at all the complaints that have come.
Aren't they already doing that?
No, it's not done properly. I told you 2 days ago, I heard that they had not taken down a complaint, and they called me. So I don't have a police unit, I don't have a psychosocial unit, I don't have a separate legal unit. I'm the legal advisor, the person who appears in court, I'm the person who drafts documents, I'm the person who does skills training for women and income generation, I'm the CEO and the chairperson, and everything rolled into one. So can I handle all the complaints in the country when there's an institution, but that institution has gone to sleep, like the dormouse in Alice in Wonderland?
But I refuse to lose faith if there are young lawyers or doctors watching us right now who want to get in touch with you, who want to get in touch with your organization, who want to help these children and women who are in need, how can they do that?
I think I see myself as a shadow National Child Protection Authority, because I see it as a wonderful piece of legislation, and I'm trying to carry out the same functions that are there in Section 14 without any funding, without any support, without anything, with only passion and fire. I'm determined to function as a shadow NCPA and allow the government NCPA to rest in peace in its coffin.
Right. Let's give your number or an email address so that people who are interested in getting in touch with you can do so.
My email address is Marini, MARINI .Delivera, DELIVERA @gmail.com, and my number is 0714 810 979.
Fantastic. Before we conclude the conversation, let's talk a bit about the importance of mental health, both of the abusers and the persons who have been subjected to abuse. The abusers first. If a person has tendencies of perpetrating abuse and wishes to get help, what must they do?
There are psychosocial officers,
right,
at district level.
Okay.
In every district secretariat, so they can get in touch with them. And the normal hospitals also have psychologists.
Right. And for children who have been abused, young women and men, because gender-based violence happens irrespective of whether you're a man or a woman, those subjected to gender-based violence, how must they seek help? Is it by going straight to the police station, or?
With regard to psychosocial therapy, the psychosocial unit is not functioning as it did some time ago at the National Child Protection Authority. So we are trying to put together a team of counselors who will help these children. But with regard to the survivors who came to me during the last 2 months, they haven't had any counseling. There was a girl who was raped by her cousin who came last week. Counseling, zero. There was a child who was abused by the father, no counseling at all. And the counselor that dealt with the child wouldn't open up to that counselor. So, so these problems are there.
Yeah. What would the ideal situation be, Ms. De Livera? You're doing a lot of work and working very closely with children and women in need. What would the ideal situation be? I'm trying to wrap up this program on a positive note, on a note that we can have some faith and some hope for the future.
The positive thing is we have excellent laws, we have an excellent constitution, we have good policies, we have the institutions, the buildings and the people are there. So the main thing is to make them work. Make them work. It's like a factory where the machines are sitting idle. So you have to make it work. And for every institution, you have to have a dynamic leader. It's all about leadership and teamwork.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Marini De Livera, Attorney at Law, Chairperson of Sisters at Law, which is a hybrid organization that provides support to women and children who have gone through insurmountable odds, abuse. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was lovely being here.